graphics engine. A universal graphics engine is an engine or a platform with an open and modular architecture, and it enables us to build applications for self-servicing marketing material. While doing that, it also enables us to stay in control over the assets created. Its open and modular approach enables you to combine any of its features, any of its units in any way, in any order required for your specific use case. It comes with 3 units: an input unit, an edit unit, and an output unit. And at the center of that, you find a powerful processing core. That processing core contains rendering technology, it contains generation technology and conversion technology. Now, let's take a look at what this input unit has to offer. Let's make that a bit more tangible. A UGE comes with pre-flighting capabilities. It enables you to pre-flight the files which are coming in, so you don't run into problems in production. It can handle a wide variety of graphics formats, ranging from JPEG, PNG, to more complex files like TIFF, even PDF. And it doesn't just work with flat, non-interactive files. It can also import an entire layout. And Publisher can do this because it comes with an InDesign plugin. This InDesign plugin enables graphic designers to bring their design from a desktop publishing environment into the cloud. And that plugin converts the entire DNA. It will convert the font files, it will convert the colors in their original color space, take in those images while maintaining those color profiles, and also paragraph styles, character styles. And because of that, and it also enables those graphic designers to start thinking about optimizing that design. For example, locking down several complex objects into one single vector object, so that design becomes usable in an online environment. So because that plugin converts all of the DNA elements of that design, of that layout, we can then, after it's converted to Publisher, build a smart template based on that design, on that layout. There we go. But of course, that wouldn't be very useful if we can't edit it. So that brings us to our second and most important unit. It's the unit we are most proud of, the editing unit. In Publisher, it's not just about editing. It is also about enforcing your brand guidelines. We can do that because you can apply constraints. It is about building smart templates, intelligent templates, by combining variable data, variables, and business logic, actions, rules like anchoring and copying. It is about using a single template to output to many different formats. It is also about fine-tuning that UI for the specific needs of your end user. And of course, all of that is happening in a multilingual environment, following through what you see is what you get principles. Let's take a look back at that document we've just converted, and let me explain you how this was converted into a smart, intelligent template. First of all, we've replaced some of that content by variables. A reason you might want to do that is to make it more easy for your end user to edit it, but in most cases you want them to edit in line. That's a better user experience. But in this case, what we want to do there is we want to have some control over that document. We want to execute some business logic once those variables are modified. So we've added 2 extra variables to that document. One which controls the output format, the alternate layouts, and one which controls the language. And to that variable, we've connected some business logic, enabling us to just select the output format, just select the language, and automatically new content is being injected into that template. So here you see, for example, adding some business logic to that variable. And that will then trigger all those changes in that document. Now, I've also talked about enforcing your brand guidelines. And I'll just give you a quick example, because I can go on and on and on. The possibilities of Publisher are really endless here. But let's say our brand guidelines dictate that this logo should always have a 10mm offset to the edges of your page. Well, we can do this by defining a custom move region on that frame or on that layer. And by defining that move region, we can define where our end user is allowed to place that logo. And it won't be able to allow it any place else than the region we've defined. Now, all of that wouldn't be very useful if we couldn't output. And that brings us to our output module, our output unit. Actually, Publisher allows you to go back to InDesign. It allows you to convert that layout back to its original format. It also can output to a wide variety of standards, PDF for example. And it also lets you repurpose some of that content. So that variable we've just modified, we can extract that value back from it, and we can inject it back to our content management system or our PIM system, for example. It also comes with proofing capabilities, enabling you to content proof the design you've just created. Chili Publisher comes with a 3D visualization module, enabling you to visualize your document in 3D. For example, this chips bag, it's going to be printed on reflective foil, but our end user doesn't know which parts of that design will remain reflective and which part of that design we will be printing on. Now, to visualize this, to explain that to our end user, we can leverage the 3D capabilities of Chili Publisher, clearly showing our end user which part of that design will remain reflective, which part of that design we will be printing on. So, for all of you who are already using our product today, this is not new, right? So, this all sounds familiar. So you're probably wondering, where is this graphics engine going to evolve to? What is going to happen? Well, we are on a mission. We're on a mission to make this engine even more powerful. We will be adding new features and functionality to each of those 3 units. We will keep on working on the performance and quality of those 3 units. We'll keep on adding new features, work on performance, and we will also keep working on that central processing core, making it more powerful. Why are we doing this? Simple. We want to enable you to build as much combinations as possible in that word cloud. We want to enable you to build applications for data-driven document generation, template-driven packaging customization, digital artwork localization, or branded collateral creation. Like Pete told us this afternoon, we suck at predicting the future. We can't predict the future, but we better be ready for it. We are building the tools you need today to build your self-servicing applications tomorrow. So about 10 months ago, at our previous Spicy Talks in Paris, I showed you this slide. I explained to you that, backed by our investors, we were going to clone our development team. Unfortunately, cloning people is still not legally allowed, so we had to come up with a plan B. And this was our plan B. We hired these guys. And that resulted in 10 releases over the past 10 months. So that's 1 release per month. So let's take a look at what we've released recently. First of all, the performance of the editor increased a lot, it improved a lot. Not just performance, also rendering quality. We are now rendering at the true resolution of your screen. So if you're on a Retina display, a high resolution Retina display, your text, your UI is now looking crystal clear and sharp. We've also completely revised the action editor. You've just seen it in that demo. Before, if you were building complex actions, very long actions, that could get quite painful. That would start working really slow. But this new revised action editor is really fast and user-friendly. We've also introduced new functionality. Not just one feature, there's a couple of features in the past 10 months. But one of my favorite new features is this one. It is inline image positioning. So the ability to position an image inside a frame, not just in a dedicated panel, but on top of the document canvas inside the frame. So here on that image frame on the left, we are not using that functionality. On those 2 frames on the right, we enabled that new feature. So what happens? If we hover over that frame on the left, you see that nothing special happens. I can select that frame, I can move that frame around, but I have no way to position that image inside that frame. If we take a look at the image frames on the right, you will see that a hand cursor appears. And if I hover over it and I use my mouse wheel, I can actually zoom the image in and out. And by clicking on it and dragging, I can even position that image inside that frame. So a really nice feature for business-to-consumer applications like photo books or business cards, making it really easy for your end user to modify that template, so to edit the content of that template. So how do you enable this? It's actually really simple. You just need to make sure that your image frame has a manual fit mode, so you have to set the fit mode to manual. And then in your view preference, all you have to do is enable a new option called inline image positioning, which you can find under frame handles. What else? Well, we've been working on the control panel of our processing core, of our processing unit. We've actually completely replaced our back office with a new application. we didn't just apply a new design on top of the old one, we've rebuilt it from scratch. And that resulted in some really nice new functionalities and improvements. It already starts with the login screen. Previously, we were able to customize it, to brand it by replacing that logo there, completely customizing it to our brand or to our needs. Now we can go a step further. You can actually replace the complete background, so it's completely customizable now, also the colors. And if you log in, you will see that the menu is moved from the side to the top, so we have a lot more space now. And we've also simplified that top menu. So you only have 3 top-level choices: resources, settings, and system. So under resources you find things like assets and documents. Under system you can control everything that's system related. So making it really easy to find what you need there. And if you take a look at that asset browser, you will see that we are using higher resolution previews now. So you have a better overview of what you can find in that folder. We've also introduced an inspection mode showing you an even higher resolution preview, while still maintaining the ability to easily navigate to the previous and to the next item. One of my favorite new features, one of my favorite new functionalities is multi-selection. So the ability to select multiple files at the same time, and then perform an action on all of those files at the same time. So previously we had to do that one by one, which was quite a lot of work if you had to move a lot of files. So now that's all happening at the same time. It's not just that asset browser, it's also the font browser. So they're the same thing, higher resolution thumbnails, and the reason is we're no longer using bitmap-based previews there, we are using vector-based previews. So no matter your screen resolution, they will always look crystal clear and sharp. Like I said, we have a lot more space now, so if you're opening the editor within that back office, it uses the complete width of the screen, making it really user-friendly to interact with that document when it's loaded inside the back office. Of course, a good back office comes with great search functionality, so we've made that really accessible. In every resource browser, you have that search functionality at the top, enabling you to quickly find what you need. And then, of course, we've ported over all of the settings, but also under settings you find all of those different settings, from PDF export settings to conversion profiles to whatever you have in there. And maybe one more thing I need to mention is the ability to manage your SVG icons. So previously you could change the color of those icons. Now in the new back office you can actually also customize the shape of your icons. And that brings us to the future. What will we be doing in the next 6 months, in the next 10 months, in the next year? Well, like I said, we will continue working on all of those units, but we're also working on that core processing unit. We are going to replace some of the components of that core processing unit. We are a technology company, so we thrive on constant innovation. And for the past couple of years, we have been working on new technology. We've been working on PDF generation, on barcode generation and PDF rendering technology. Why are we going to replace that? Was the previous code bad? No, not really. Did it have limitations? Sure, yeah, there were some limitations. Are we going to fix those? Definitely. But that's not the main reason why we are doing this. We are doing this because we believe that all of our components should be cross-platform. And you're hearing that right. Client-side PDF generation, client-side barcode generation, client-side PDF rendering, all of that will become possible because of our new technology stack. So we will be performing some heart surgery in the coming months. We will be replacing that technology under the hood. And that first phase will go unnoticed. But in later stages you will start benefiting from this because we will expose new API functionality, we will expose new features, we will release new features. And one of the first areas where you will see these improvements is variable data. Now, Chili Publish has a lot to offer in this area already. And you've already seen some examples here today. But there's room for improvement. Let's, for example, take the example of a retail brand. That retail brand has more data than ever before. It's keeping track of what their customers are buying, what their interests are, where they are living, what their gender is. But it's also keeping track of what their competitors are doing. It's keeping track of their competitors' pricing in stores in the neighborhood. And it's using all that data to achieve their ultimate dream, which is mass customization, mass Personalization. Why are they doing this? To build a personal relationship with each single one of those customers. So what do they need? They need thousands of edits. Thousands of edits at the same time, and they need it by yesterday, because that final data set is coming in very late in the process. That data set is fluctuating all the time, it's changing all the time, especially if we're talking about prices. And because of that, they need performance. And right from the beginning, Chili Publisher was set up as a scalable application. If you need more power, you simply add some processing units to it, and that workload was divided. But what is happening is that first processing unit does most of the work, and that second processing unit kicks in when that first one gets into problems. And then a third one would kick in if the workload gets too much for the three of them, and so on. So if you need real performance, that's not a real optimal way to work. It would be far better if they would evenly divide the work. So what are we going to do? The next couple of months we'll heavily focus on load balancing. So if you need performance, it's just a matter of infrastructure. Computing power is cheap these days. When you need power, you scale up. If you no longer need it, you scale down again. So you only pay for what you're using. But what is not cheap is data storage and especially data transfer. So we will always also be working on optimizing the file size of those PDFs. For example, if you have images on a variable layer, Chili Publish assumes that this is actually unique, that is all variable. But in a lot of use cases, you're reusing that same asset over and over again across multiple records. So that new PDF rendering technology will understand this, it will detect this, and it will reference those images, so the result will be a much smaller file size. Variable data is not just about injecting new content in a template. It's not always about replacing the content. Sometimes you also want to do multiple sizes within one variable data batch. For example, if that brand is doing a campaign, it will try to standardize as much as possible. It will try to standardize its point of sales material, its collateral, so it can be reused across stores. So you don't have different sizes, different formats in every single store. What is very difficult to standardize is the size of your store windows. So if you want to do signage on a store window, you probably need a lot of different versions. And Chili Publisher has an answer to this, has a solution for this. It's called alternate layout. So you could create an alternate layout for each of those formats. But there's a problem. You can't combine alternate layouts with variable data batch. And this is something that is going to improve. We will be able to select a different alternate layout for each single record. So you can just run one batch and produce all the signage for all of your stores at the same time. So if your store window is this size or this size, you can all run that in one single batch. Of course, in the digital space. In the digital space, we are dealing with different screen resolutions, different devices, different aspect ratios, and you probably need to handle all of that in real time. So, especially if you're making a banner, for example. If you're designing a banner, it's never just one size. That size will depend on the position of that banner within your web page. So you have to design something like this. You end up with 4, 5, 6 to 20 versions. And it gets worse if you're doing translation, for example. Chili Publish is a Belgian company. If we want to target Belgium, if we want to run a campaign in Belgium, we already need 4 languages. We need French, we need Dutch, we need German, and to reach the international crowd, we usually add English to that. It gets even worse if we're going to personalization, customization, all the izations. And I'm not necessarily talking about real personalization of that ad saying, hey Ward, have you checked out this product? It's more subtle. It is changing a color based on the product, changing the product shot, changing that price. For example, if you're running that campaign, that discount will go from 20% to 50% at the end of that campaign. And you all want to drive that from a single template, so you don't have to provide all of these different versions. So what are we going to do to make your life easier? We will create a new API for you. An API which will enable you to ask, to request Chili Publisher a banner or an image at a specific size. And Chili Publisher will then cycle through all of the alternate layouts in that template, trying to find the best fitting alternate layout. On top of that, it will enable you to at the same time inject new variable values, so to customize that design. for example, translating it. And on top of that, you will be able to request it to rescale, to resize that document to the actual requested size. At what point, Chili Publish will execute all of the business logic in your document, all of the rules in your document, like anchoring, copy fitting, all of those. And the result is true dynamic layout. One template, any size output. So that's all happening in the edit module and the output module. But like I said, we are working on all of those modules, all of those units. We're also working on that input unit. So, like I explained you already, Chili Publish comes with an InDesign plugin, which can convert the entire DNA of a layout and bring that into the cloud. But a lot of you are not using InDesign. A lot of you are using a different tool. You're using Illustrator. And that's why we're working on an Illustrator plugin. I prepared this demo here. It's a beer label. And the first thing I need to tell you that it's quite a complex beer label. It's just not a single image. It is made out of hundreds of different vector objects. So just like in InDesign, what we want to do here is we want to start optimizing that before it goes into the cloud. So what we're going to do there is we're going to leverage the locking feature of Illustrator. We're going to lock those layers which we want to optimize and lock into a single vector file. And then later on, we can request our plugin to, while it's convert those elements into a single object. We also want to configure our colors, because Illustrator comes with two different colors. A color that is not linked to the original element, and a color that is global. So we're only going to import those global colors and not the complete swatch list. And then after that, we're just going to convert it. So we just connect to our Chili server. We're going to choose an output location, so a target folder. And then we just request our plugin to convert that layout. At which point, just like in the InDesign plugin, our plugin will start working, we'll start converting those colors, converting all of those text, fonts, everything is brought over into the cloud, where we can then start making a smart template again, but now based on a Illustrator file. So here we go. And as you can see, that entire layout has been ported over from Illustrator and brought into Chili Publisher. So let's take a look. We can edit the text just like we did with InDesign. We can change the color, and you will see that color is still linked to all of the elements of that design. So let's change that to blue. You'll see that document still responds to that, so we kept the relationship of those colors with the original elements. And then here, let's move that image around, so that's still a separate object. We can still move that around. And what's more interesting, that little guy there, that's still a shape. So we can modify that shape, we can edit that shape. So why am I explaining all of this? Because if you're using Chili Publish today, and if you're using that InDesign plugin, you're thinking, yeah, great, this is not new, this is just another plugin. I'm explaining you this because this plugin is not a one-trick pony. It also enables you to do round tripping. So if you go back to Illustrator, you will see that there is a From Chili tab in this plugin. And if you click on that, we can browse our server, and we can actually start looking for that file. We open that file, at which point that plugin will take in that original Illustrator file and start synchronizing all of our changes back into that original Illustrator file. And we end up with the same design, the same layout. It kept its original shape, original font files, everything is still original, but we end up with that modified version. So you can now templatize an Illustrator file, go back to Illustrator, and then use Illustrator to go back into your workflow, real round-trip functionality. So what can you expect in the coming months? First of all, we are going to do general improvements to all of those 3 units. We're going to improve performance, usability. We are going to integrate new technology, new rendering technology, new generation technology, new conversion technology. And because of that, we will be able to provide you improvements in the area of variable data processing. And we'll also be working on outputs for digital output, APIs for digital output. And last but not least, we are working on that Illustrator plugin. that brings us to my final slides. Thank you all for being here today. It was a real pleasure to have you.